Hello, welcome to this week's reflection on why is Jesus good news for Denbigh Mission area. I'm going to be reading from the Gospel for the Sunday, and it's Luke chapter 9, verses 28 to 36. Jesus took with him Peter and John and James, and they went up on the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw two men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but since they'd stayed awake, they saw his glory, and two men stood there with Jesus. Just as they were leaving, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Peter did not know what he'd said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered into the cloud. And from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and the disciples kept silent. And in those days told no one of the things which they had seen. On the next day, when they'd come down from the mountain, a great crowd met him. Just then a man from the crowd shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son. He is my only child." Suddenly a spirit seizes him, and all at once he shrieks. It throws him into convulsions until he foams at the mouth. It mauls him and will scarcely leave him alone. "I begged your disciples to cast it out, but they could not." Jesus answered, "You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here." While he was coming, the demon dashed him to the ground in convulsions, but Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. And all were astounded at the greatness of God. Everyone was amazed at all he was doing. So there's the first part of that reading we've just heard read is the transfiguration. Top of a mountain we've gone with the 3 disciples, Peter, James and John, and Jesus has appeared whilst he's been praying with Moses and Elijah, those great 2 messianic figures from the Old Testament. And something that comes towards the end of that passage, what we heard read, is Jesus talking about how much longer must I be with you, and it irks towards the fact that this meeting perhaps was one that was needed to give Jesus the strength for what he was about to face by going on the cross for our sakes. All that he needed to endure was just ahead. And we've had a foretaste of what comes after when he essentially ascends into heaven. Why is Jesus good news? Well, of course, you could get caught up on these vivid images. In our churches we'll also have the Old Testament reading where Moses goes up on the mountain and comes back down with his face absolutely shining, just like Jesus's clothes shone before Peter, James and John. And this shining is the reflection of God, the glory of God visible in humans. In the Moses story, they're absolutely scared of it. And you can quite easily be scared of believing in these things or taking them absolutely literally, rather than entering in with an open mind and finding the glory in this story we've just heard is why Jesus is good news. And why is Jesus good news? Well, we're all kind of possessed by the weight and the gravity of this world and the things which we love and hold on to dearly, but they're worth nothing. They're worth nothing in the long run, and Jesus cleanses us of that and points us towards the thing that shines, the glory of heaven. And what he came to do by dying on that cross brings us into his love. and frees us from the eternal gravity of this world, both in it and by the grace of God, with great hope beyond it for us too. This is why Jesus is good news.